The U.S. House Select Committee on Chinese Communist Party has condemned China's recent military maneuvers around Taiwan, calling them intimidation aimed at subjugating a free and democratic society. China's live-fire drills in the East China Sea continue, with Taiwan reporting a significant presence of Chinese military forces, including 27 aircraft and 21 warships. However, Taiwan confirmed no live fire drills occurred near its territory despite China's claims. The People's Liberation Army has ramped up military exercises, including the Joint Sword 2024 drills, which involved all PLA branches and the Coast Guard, showcasing China's ability to mobilize very quickly. This follows a sharp rise in Chinese incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone, with over 3,000 incidents reported in 2024 alone. All right, joining us at this point in time is Ross Feingold, political risk analyst. Ross, appreciate you being here with us. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Well, this is something that China has been indulging in since a very long time. Whenever there is news of proximity or an outreach by the Americans, or for that matter, even a European country, or for that matter, India as well, China gets into the business of posturing. But the big question is, Ross, is this just posturing?
Certainly it's not. And I like to say that people in Taiwan, whether it's the average citizen, the corporate world, and certainly the government and the military, they need to act like China might invade tomorrow. If they don't have that kind of attitude, they'll probably lose a war. So they have to take the threat from China very seriously, and keep in mind, every time that China engages in a large-scale military exercise that combines forces, their army, their air force, their navy, their coast guard, their maritime militia, China learns from these experiences. It improves its capability to either blockade or to make an amphibious invasion of Taiwan. So I would be very, very careful about saying that things like this is just for show, it's not serious, they don't have the capability. I think people and stakeholders here in Taiwan need to take this very seriously.
Ross, there's also the question of the American response at this point in time. A lot of experts believe that Donald Trump is perhaps, occupied with the tariff war and Ukraine and Russia at this point in time. There is a lot that China could get away with. What do you think the Americans' response has to be to all these so-called threats?
We've already seen statements in the past 24 to 48 hours from the State Department, as well as from the White House spokesperson, basically saying standard kind of U.S. diplomatic speak, that they hope that the two sides of the Taiwan Strait don't make any unilateral changes to the status quo, that they hope differences can be resolved peacefully, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, this is very standard kind of response that we see in statements from official spokespersons of the U.S. government. What really remains to be seen, especially because it's such early days in the Trump administration, they've only been in office around 100 days, is what kind of presence will the U.S. have in the Taiwan Strait or the South China Sea? Are they going to frequently transit the Taiwan Strait? Are they frequently going to transit the South China Sea and or conduct joint military exercises with partners like Japan, the Philippines, and Australia in the South China Sea? This really remains to be seen. Ultimately, you're right. This is up to President Trump, and he does tend to look at foreign relations, and including the U.S.-China relationship, through the lens of the trade aspect. However, at the same time, Trump's team, his foreign policy and national security team, includes a number of people who have a reputation for being very tough on China. And that includes Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and people like that are going to be recommending to President Trump that the U.S. needs to have a robust presence on the seas or in the air in this part of the world.
Right. And Ross, the other big question is, can China really afford to get into a conflict like this? We've all seen the formation of the Quad in the last few years. The ASEAN countries have also been, for the lack of a better word, peeved with the way China has treated international waters. Can China actually get into this bullying zone?
That's an interesting question, because being in the bullying zone, or what experts frequently now refer to it as the gray zone, with these kinds of exercises or other actions, such as possibly cutting undersea cables, or internet attacks on on Taiwan's online infrastructure, it seems that China feels they could get away with those kinds of actions because there isn't much of a response other than angry statements from friendly countries to Taiwan. Can China withstand the economic consequences of a military invasion of Taiwan? We don't really know the answer to that. There are all sorts of estimates of what it would mean to the global economy if China invades Taiwan, the sanctions that the United States and Europe might impose if China invades Taiwan. But those are very much unknown. So for now, China is staying in that lane where they're using these kinds of tactics to make their displeasure known about certain things that Taiwan or Taiwan friends do.
Ross, always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much.